Chapter 2063. Luo Qingtong's eyes swept across the crowd, then she said in a deep voice, "I'm sure you've heard it. I'm Luo Qingtong." She narrowed her eyes. "I can help you deal with the blood-immortal jade bones, as long as you help me deal with the people from beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. I'll help you get out of this shattered Star Valley. What do you think?" Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows slightly. When the crowd heard her words, a commotion broke out. Luo Qingtong. She's that Luo Qingtong. Everyone present was no stranger to Luo Qingtong's name. Recently, in the hidden world, news about Luo Qingtong was all over the place. Of course, that was Luo Qingtong's other name, Night Eye. However, at the entrance of the land of the fallen immortals, most of the people who saw Luo Qingtong confronting the people from beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace knew that Luo Qingtong was Night Eye. The two of them were the same person. And Luo Qingtong was also an honorary guest elder of the Sky Yuan sect. She was a young girl, yet she was able to make a name for herself in the hidden world among several large sections. Luo Qingtong even played the people from beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace in the palm of her hand. If Fang Jingyu hadn't forced her to swear on the man beside her, she wouldn't have taken the initiative to reveal her identity. The misunderstanding between beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace wouldn't be resolved so easily. And the people from beast-taming King Valley couldn't deal with Luo Qingtong. Such a legendary girl, even those who didn't pay much attention to the outside world inevitably heard about her. And this wasn't the main reason why everyone was restless. They were restless because of the treasure map in Luo Qingtong's hands. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's words were said by another person. Even if the other party's reputation was greater than Luo Qingtong's, and the commotion she caused in the hidden world was more intense, no one would be willing to listen to her. But Luo Qingtong was different. The girl had the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals. This was confirmed by the people of beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace from the beginning. And it was precisely because of this treasure map that the situation between the two sides had become so tense. And that treasure map was with Luo Qingtong. This was what Luo Qingtong had admitted in front of everyone. Therefore, everyone was only pleasantly surprised by Luo Qingtong's words and did not question them. After all, the girl had that treasure map. Perhaps she really did have a way to deal with these blood-colored immortal jade bone transformations. Since she was trapped in the broken Star Valley with them, she wouldn't risk her own life. With this thought in mind, everyone's spirits were lifted. Come on. Let's protect Luo Qingtong together. Don't let those bastards from beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace hurt her. Among the crowd of people, some of the more powerful experts from the sects immediately ordered. They led the experts from their sects to surround Luo Qingtong, encircling her, Yun Shi, and the corpse puppet of the great Yong saint. When the others heard this, they also recovered from their shock and gathered around this group of people from the sect. Chapter 2064. Bastard. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the Master of Celestial Palace were both anxious and angry when they saw this scene. They had never expected that Luo Qingtong would say such a thing. She could help those people deal with those damn things in the Broken Stars Valley. How could this be possible? They were both shocked and confused. This was especially true for the beast-taming King Valley's Valley Master, Elder Dark, and the others. Was Luo Qingtong bluffing to trick these people into protecting her, or did she really have a way? If she really had a way, they had an unspeakable bad feeling in their hearts. If Luo Qingtong really had a way to deal with these blood-red figures, then it would be a bad move for them to gather all these people and force them to their deaths. These people were forced to die by them, and Luo Qingtong happened to be able to save them. How could they not listen to Luo Qingtong? With the help of these people, Luo Qingtong went from being alone to being extremely powerful. She was completely capable of dealing with those blood-red figures. In this way, If she managed to break through the blockade of those blood-red figures, then all of their efforts this time would have been for nothing. Thinking of this, Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were both anxious and angry in an instant. Do it. Kill Luo Qingtong quickly. Don't worry about the others. Kill those who stand in our way. A bad feeling arose in their hearts. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others had suffered a great loss in the hands of Luo Qingtong before. Regardless of whether Luo Qingtong's words were true or not, it did not matter whether they were true or not. They couldn't give her any chance to make a comeback. Kill her. Beast Tamer King Guguju shouted coldly. Not far from Luo Qingtong, the people of the Yun family were already dumbfounded. When Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed, they had hurriedly distanced themselves from her. They had never thought that the disciple of the Brightheart sect they had met would be Luo Qingtong, who was wanted by Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace. What was even more unexpected was that she knew that the people of Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace were here and still came to the Broken Stars Valley. What kind of bear's heart and leopard's guts did she eat? When Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed, the people had hurriedly distanced themselves from Luo Qingtong, fearing that they would be implicated by Luo Qingtong if they were not careful. There were also people of the Yun family who wanted to use Luo Qingtong's identity to establish a relationship with Beast Tamer Valley. They wanted to tell the people of Beast Tamer Valley that they had deliberately tricked Luo Qingtong to come here, so that the people of Beast Tamer Valley would let them go. However, who would have thought that before their plan could be carried out, Luo Qingtong's situation would immediately reverse. The girl said that she could deal with those damn things of Beast Tamer Valley, and the people of other forces directly wanted to protect her. The people of the Yun family were indescribably dumbfounded. If Luo Qingtong could really deal with those damn things, then how stupid were they to hurriedly withdraw from her side? Especially when they wanted to use Luo Qingtong's matter to gain the favor and recognition of the beast-taming King Valley and beg the other party to let them go. How stupid were they? Chapter 2065. They would be lucky if the other party didn't kill them. How could they expect the other party to protect them? On the other hand, Luo Qingtong was different. Didn't they see that Yunshi had been standing beside Luo Qingtong since the beginning? Now she was being protected by everyone. This was a great opportunity for them. They obviously had this opportunity, but they gave it up. As everyone thought about it, they instantly regretted it so much that their hearts, livers, spleens, and stomachs ached. While everyone in the Yun family was regretting their decision, Yunshi looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise and shock. She didn't expect things to turn around like this. Her hand was still tightly grasping Luo Qingtong's sleeve. She wanted her to disguise herself, so that the two of them could switch places, and Luo Qingtong could leave safely. But she didn't expect Luo Qingtong to solve everything with just a few words. But was Luo Qingtong telling the truth? Could it be that she said it deliberately so that these people could protect them? If that was the case, what would happen if someone saw through it? Yunshi was very conflicted. From the bottom of her heart, she was very willing for Luo Qingtong's words to be true. This way, both of them would be fine, along with the others. But from a rational point of view, she was worried that this was just a trick for Luo Qingtong to get away. If this was the case, when they were exposed later, there would be a bigger backlash. While Yunshi was feeling uneasy, Luo Qingtong glanced at the people from the Beast Master Valley and the Celestial Palace who were rushing over desperately. Then she said to the people around her, "Let's go. Rush in the direction of the valley." In the depths of the Broken Star Valley was the gathering place of those bloody figures. At this moment, those bloody figures, together with the corpses they controlled, were rushing toward the people of the various forces. Even without Luo Qingtong's order, the people of these forces had no choice but to face these bloody figures and the corpses they controlled. After all, their rear was blocked by the people from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. The two forces were strong enough to stop all of them, making it impossible for them to break through the blockade and get out of Shattered Star Valley. Now that they heard Luo Qingtong's order, they only hesitated for a moment. Then, they gritted their teeth and rushed in the direction of the bloody figures. After all, Luo Qingtong said that she could deal with these things. As a result, the place where the blood-red figures gathered was their only chance of survival. After all, even if they worked together, they might not be able to deal with the people from beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. He might as well charge in. With that thought in mind, everyone immediately took action. The people from the Yun family were left behind. They were both regretful and afraid, but they still followed Luo Qingtong and the others in the direction of the bloody figures. The people from beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace became even more anxious. B*TCH, does she really have a way? The Beast Master Gu Guju and the Master of Celestial Palace were indescribably angry. The bad feeling in their hearts was getting heavier and heavier. They hurriedly led their people to chase after Luo Qingtong and the others, trying to stop them all. Chapter 2066. At that time, they had indeed quietly surrounded a group of people from different forces. But now, when Luo Qingtong led these people to retreat, they couldn't catch up. Not only that, but as they rushed forward, those blood-colored figures also rushed towards them. As a result, before they could catch up to Luo Qingtong and the others, the latter had already rushed into the encirclement of those blood-colored figures. Ah! One of the sect disciples who was at the periphery of the encirclement was the first to confront the blood-colored figures and the corpses they controlled. When the mental power of the blood-colored figures blasted into his mind, he immediately let out a sharp cry and scratched himself desperately like a madman. Seeing this scene, the group of people surrounding Luo Qingtong were shocked and quickly looked at Luo Qingtong, who was surrounded by them. "Miss Tong, look at this," everyone was anxious. Luo Qingtong said that she could deal with these blood-colored figures. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Don't be unable to deal with them. Otherwise, all of them would have to die here. Damn it, these bastards from beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace, they actually forced them to come to their deaths. When they leave this place, they must make the despicable actions of beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace known to the public. Let everyone in the hidden world see how vicious and shameless their thoughts were. At that time, they would unite their sects and seek justice from beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. They would let the other party know that weak sects like theirs were not so easily bullied. Everyone gritted their teeth in hatred. If it weren't for this, they wouldn't have helped Luo Qingtong so decisively and stood on her side. When everyone looked over, Luo Qingtong's blood-colored eyes flashed. She had already clearly seen the location of the mental power attack that rushed into the mind of that sect disciple. Bang! She raised her hand and in an instant, the light from the life and death duality sword in her hand swept out and slashed towards that sect disciple. When they saw this scene, everyone's faces were instantly filled with shock. Was this the method that Luo Qingtong said to deal with those blood-colored figures? Directly slashing the person. But when facing those blood-colored figures, they also did the same thing. As long as someone was controlled, they would immediately attack. In this way, when one person was killed, the blood-colored figure's assistance would not continue to increase. But this was completely treating the symptoms and not the root cause. The more people on their side were killed, the weaker their side strength. On the contrary, the blood-red figures didn't suffer any damage after the first person was killed. They continued to charge towards the second person and continued to control him. They couldn't continue to kill each other like this, right? If that's the case, they'll annihilate us sooner or later. If it weren't for this, they wouldn't have escaped from the valley. They did not expect Luo Qingtong to use the same method as them. What was the point of this? In the end, wouldn't they still die? They knew that this method wouldn't work, so they raced to escape. Everyone's hearts were filled with indescribable disappointment and anger. They felt that they had been inexplicably played by someone. Chapter 2067. Bang! Luo Qingtong's sword light landed on the disciple's body, but it didn't leave a single mark on him. However, the disciple held his head and screamed in an instant. His scream was so shrill that it made one's hair stand on end. Obviously, it wasn't a human scream. It carried an extremely sharp and resounding aura of violence and death. In the next second, with a bang, everyone watched as a faint blood-red mist drifted out of his mind. Then, with a boom, it exploded into a cloud of blood mist in front of everyone. At the same time, an explosion came from somewhere deep in the Broken Stars Valley in the distance. Then, blood gurgled out of it, leaving a blood-red mark on the ground. Everyone opened their eyes wide in an instant. Was the thing that Luo Qingtong hacked out the culprit of the bloody carrion? Those damn things that they couldn't see and couldn't do anything to. Everyone was shocked. However, Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. She withdrew the life and death sword in her hand. Then, she narrowed her eyes and flicked her fingers. Swish! 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 She flicked out streaks of aura into the bodies of the blood-red figures in front of her, leaving a clear mark on their bodies. Do you see the mark in their bodies? Hit them. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. The reason why they couldn't defeat these blood-red figures was that they couldn't resist the spiritual power attack of these blood-red figures and couldn't resist the control of their spiritual power. Secondly, they couldn't see where these blood-red figures were, so they couldn't attack them at all. Under the superposition of these two factors, the blood-red figures could only attack them, while they couldn't fight back. However, at this moment, Luo Qingtong used her aura to leave a mark on those blood-red figures. The crowd only needed to attack according to her aura. It was equivalent to the blood-red figures losing their ability to hide completely. In this way, the crowd could deal with them. After all, things that couldn't be seen or touched were the scariest. As for things that could be seen and touched, no matter how ferocious they were just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. As soon as Luo Qingtong did this, everyone was pleasantly surprised. They attacked according to Luo Qingtong's instructions, only to find that the thing that had been marked by Luo Qingtong's aura suddenly burst into a bloody mist under their attacks. The blood immortal jade bone's transformation was finally broken. Everyone was shocked and pleasantly surprised. They huddled together and relied on Luo Qingtong to push forward. They attacked the bloody figures that had been marked by Luo Qingtong's aura. Luo Qingtong would deal with those who were carelessly controlled by the bloody figure. The girl brandished the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand. Every time a silvery white sword light flashed, she would reap the transformation of a crimson immortal jade bone. No one knew how Luo Qingtong did it. The crowd needed several people to combine their attacks to barely eliminate the transformation of these crimson immortal jade bones. Chapter 2068. A single person's thoughts were useless against it. Only when everyone worked together would they be able to kill it. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, could easily kill it with her sword. Not only that, her sword light didn't hurt anyone. It was as if it was specifically targeted at these crimson figures. Everyone vaguely guessed that it was probably because Luo Qingtong found a way to deal with these crimson figures from the treasure map. Everyone was only guessing and didn't dare to confirm it. Only Luo Qingtong and Little Pig understood that this wasn't the effect of the treasure map. It was because the sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand was the sword light of the life blade. The blood immortal jade bone's form was equivalent to a spirit. Its nature was similar to that of a ghost. Luo Qingtong's life blade wasn't a sword for killing. It was a sword that could increase one's strength and replenish one's aura. It carried with it the power of vitality. When she swung her sword, the crimson figure's mental attacks that rushed into the martial artist's minds were instantly cut off. Not only that, but the crimson figures formed by the blood-immortal jade bone were also killed by the boundless life force contained in the life blade. After all, life force was also a type of mental power. Under Luo Qingtong's control, it could naturally be transformed into an attack. Bang bang bang. The mental attacks that rushed into the martial artists' bodies were all cut off. And if the crimson figures that rushed into the martial artists' bodies and tried to control them, they were also killed by Luo Qingtong's life blade. Along the way, Luo Qingtong and the others kept moving forward. On the other hand, the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace's members who were chasing after them were in for a hard time. They didn't have Luo Qingtong's ability to see through the existence of the crimson figures and kill them. After several attacks, they figured out that the crimson figures that were tainted with Luo Qingtong's aura were the ghostly things that controlled the blood-rotting corpses. However, they didn't have anything like Luo Qingtong's life blade, which could kill those bloody figures that invaded and controlled their people. Therefore, even though they were able to kill the blood-colored figures that were tainted with Luo Qingtong's aura, they were still able to do so. However, if he didn't avoid the attacks of these blood-red figures and allowed them to enter his mind and possess him, he would be finished. The people from beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wanted to kill the bloody figures and the corpses they controlled. At the same time, he had to deal with their attacks and the people around him who were suddenly controlled by these blood-red figures. He was not as relaxed and comfortable as Luo Qingtong and the others when dealing with these bloody figures. The beast-tamer King Guguju and the Celestial Palace Master were indescribably furious, but there was no better way. They could only endure the attacks of the blood-red figures and continue forward. They couldn't let Luo Qingtong and the others take the lead. After all, other people didn't know what was in this broken star valley, but Luo Qingtong did. Moreover, if the other party obtained the fifth beast-taming secret art, the consequences would be unimaginable. Not to mention whether Luo Qingtong's beast-taming gift was fake or not, just based on the enmity between them and the other party. After obtaining the beast-taming secret art, she definitely wouldn't give it to them. Moreover, in order to take revenge on them, Luo Qingtong might even make the beast-taming secret art in her hands public. In that case, their beast-taming King's Valley would be finished. Thinking of this, the people from beast-taming King's Valley couldn't help but shudder in their hearts. They hurriedly rushed forward even more desperately. Chapter 2069. Luo Qingtong and the others had already rushed into the innermost area. In the deepest part of the shattered star valley, there was an extremely deep cave. There was a faint light inside, but they couldn't see clearly what was inside. But what was certain was that the fifth beast-taming art that the people of beast-taming King Valley needed was inside. Go, let's go in. Luo Qingtong's eyes slightly narrowed, and she said to the people around her. After walking all the way here, the people of the various forces were already incomparably convinced by her words. If it weren't for the girl leading them in, they would have already been blocked by the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. They could only become cannon fodder and be killed by those blood-colored figures. Now that Luo Qingtong told them to rush in, they didn't have any hesitation. Behind them were the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. The latter and the others were chasing after them at this moment. If they were caught by them, they would be in trouble. They could only rush into the depths of the cave and see what was inside. The people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace would do anything to get what was inside. Presumably, it would become the thing they relied on to leave here. Thinking of this, the group hurriedly rushed into the cave. And the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace had already forced their way here. They landed not far behind Luo Qingtong and the others, watching them rush into the cave. In an instant, the veins on beast-taming King Guguju's forehead were about to explode. Quick! Don't care about those blood-colored figures anymore, rush to the front and stop Luo Qingtong. He angrily shouted. And when the higher-ups of Beast Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace heard his words, they suddenly stared blankly. What did Beast Taming King Guguju mean by this? At this moment, the people of Beast Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace were fighting those blood-colored figures that were rushing in from all directions. It was already very strenuous. The Beast Tamer King Guguju said this. Could it be that he wanted to? Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace's upper echelons were still thinking about this when they heard Beast Taming King Guguju's cold voice. Don't bother with these low-level disciples, let's charge over. The we he was referring to was naturally the higher-ups of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. Beast Tamer King Guguju's words clearly indicated that he wanted to give up on the lower-level disciples of Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace, and only bring the higher-level experts of Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace forward. This would increase their speed, but at the same time, the disciples of Celestial Palace and Beast Taming King's Valley would all become cannon fodder. It was already difficult for them to deal with these crimson figures. Now that the group of high-level experts had left, these people who were left behind would all become the sacrificial lambs to attract and restrain the crimson figures. They would die without a doubt. Valley Master. Valley Master, please don't. The disciples of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wailed. The higher-ups of Celestial Palace and Beast Taming King's Valley were also indescribably bewildered. Abandoning their disciples like this was too difficult a choice to make. After all, these disciples who had followed them to the fallen immortal land were all elites of their sections. They were the cream of the crop. If they abandoned all of them here, the strength of their sects would be greatly damaged after leaving the fallen immortal land in the future. Chapter 2070. They didn't know how long it would take for them to train another batch of elites like this. The entire middle and lower echelons of the sect would be in a state of shortage. While everyone was hesitant, the Beast Tamer King Guguju spoke again with a ruthless look on his face. If there are no more disciples, we can find and train them again. But if Luo Qingtong gets what's inside today, our Beast Tamer Valley will be finished. And your Celestial Palace. He turned to the Celestial Palace Master. You have a part in gathering these people here to die. And you have a grudge against Luo Qingtong. Do you think she'll let us go after she gets what's inside? Our Beast Tamer Valley won't be able to get away with it, and so will your Celestial Palace. Don't forget that she still has the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals in her hands. If she gets what she wants today, then the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals might be hers. The stronger she is, the more dangerous it will be for our two sects. It's up to you to decide. The Celestial Palace Master's face turned cold as soon as he heard Guguju's words. In fact, he was already thinking of backing out just now. To him, Celestial Palace was only here to help the Beast Tamer Valley. Now that they couldn't help, and there was the risk of being implicated, he naturally didn't want to continue. Not to mention that the Beast Tamer King Guguju wanted him to give up on the disciples of Celestial Palace. How could that be? Celestial Palace didn't need to spare any effort to help the Beast Tamer Valley. Were they willing to destroy the foundation of their sect just for the sake of some benefits that the other party had promised them? He wasn't an idiot. However, the Beast Tamer King Guguju's words reminded him of something. They had a grudge against Luo Qingtong. If Luo Qingtong got what she wanted in the Shattered Star Valley, it would seem that the Beast Tamer Valley would be at a disadvantage, but Celestial Palace would also be in big trouble in the future. It seemed that they had to help the Beast Tamer Valley no matter what. No matter what, Luo Qingtong couldn't get what was inside. What is that thing inside? He couldn't help but ask Guguju. The Beast Tamer Valley's most complete spell. At this point, the Beast Taming King Valley Master could no longer hide the truth. With a gloomy expression, he said to the Celestial Peak Palace Master and the others, "Now you know why our Beast Taming King's Valley must stop her from obtaining the items inside, right? If Luo Qingtong's Luo Qingtong, then Luo Qingtong's S spells Luo Qingtong's S Luo Qingtong. And you people of Celestial Palace may not be able to escape. If Luo Qingtong got the 5th Beast Tamer spell, and she really had the Luo Qingtong's talent, then Beast Tamer Valley's outstanding position in the hidden world would be completely destroyed. And the people of Celestial Palace, who had a grudge against her, wouldn't be able to get any benefits. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong still had the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals. If she had the chance to get her hands on the treasures inside, then their 2 families would be done for. Chapter 2071. At this time, even if the master of Celestial Palace was reluctant, there was nothing he could do. They had to help the people of Beast Taming King's Valley. Hearing his words, the group of disciples of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wailed even louder. Facing the attacks of the blood-colored figures, the group of people felt an indescribable despair in their hearts at the abandonment of the higher-ups. From time to time, no one thought of resisting, but at this time, they were already doing their best to deal with the attacks of the blood-colored figures. There was simply no way to resist or deal with Beast Taming King Guguju and the others. They could only watch helplessly as they abandoned them and left. The group of disciples of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace never thought that. They had been laughing and laughing as they watched the people of those forces being intercepted and left to die. In the end, retribution came so quickly. Those people of those forces didn't die much. They had been abandoned by the higher-ups. They had replaced the role of those people of those forces. They had become cannon fodder. The group of disciples of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wailed loudly, their faces filled with indescribable despair. However, Beast Taming King Guguju and the others didn't turn back to look at them. Taking advantage of them holding back the blood-colored figures that were rushing over, Beast Taming King Guguju and Celestial Palace's higher-ups rushed in the direction of Luo Qingtong and the others at an extremely fast speed. The latter and the others were already approaching the cave. The surrounding blood-colored figures were getting fewer and fewer. It seemed that there were no more blood-colored celestial jade bones in the vicinity of the cave. When Luo Qingtong and the others were about 100 meters away from the entrance of the cave, all the blood-colored figures had disappeared. The blood-colored figures that had been killed and blocked by Luo Qingtong and the others behind them. When Luo Qingtong and the others entered within 100 meters of the cave, they were shocked. They no longer rushed in this direction to attack them. Instead, they stood 100 meters away from the cave. It let out a sharp roar at them, emitting sound waves that ordinary people couldn't hear. It was clear that they did not dare to approach this place. Seeing this, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. Her gaze swept across the hole in front of her, which seemed to be flickering with an indistinct light, as the bloody light in her eyes flickered intensely. It was at this moment that the Beast Taming King Valley's Valley Master and the others abandoned their disciples and rushed over to the scene. Soon, he rushed behind Luo Qingtong and the others. "Bitch, let's see where you can run to this time." The Beast Tamer King Guguju and the Celestial Palace Master looked indescribably ferocious. They had abandoned a group of elite disciples. This debt must be repaid with blood by Luo Qingtong. Seeing the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others rushing over, the people from the various forces were instantly flustered. "What should we do? Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others are coming." Everyone's hearts were indescribably panicked. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were the top experts of the first-rate sects. Moreover, they were the top experts of the hidden world. Among the people from the various forces, the strongest was only in the Sage Emperor realm. Even if there were many people, they were absolutely no match for them. Seeing the group of Beast Tamer King's Valley and Celestial Palace's upper echelons rushing over, the people from the various forces suddenly trembled. Miss Tong. Chapter 2072. However, there were no longer any traces of those blood-red figures around. What was Luo Qingtong going to use to deal with beast tamer King Guguju and the others? Rush into that cave. Who knew if there was a path inside? Even if there was a path, with the strength of beast tamer King Guguju and the others, it was enough to catch up with them and kill them all before they could leave. The crowd never thought that beast tamer King Guguju and the others would catch up with them so quickly. The other party was really more than a little ruthless. They were even willing to abandon their own sect's elite disciples. The crowd thought in their hearts, unspeakable fear and terror. At this moment, beast tamer King Guguju's voice rang out. Everyone who is on Luo Qingtong's side, leave immediately. I'll spare your lives. Beast tamer King Guguju's expression was ruthless. Naturally, he said this not because he was merciful and wanted to let these people off. It was because Luo Qingtong would no longer use these people to cause trouble. These people were helping Luo Qingtong, wasn't it because the other two sects wanted to kill them and send them to their deaths? Now that he let them off, he didn't believe that they wouldn't leave in this desperate situation. Luo Qingtong, this bitch, without these people to rely on, he wanted to see what she could do. This time, he must kill her here. He would never allow this person who spied on their sect's secrets to live. What did beast tamer King Guguju say? He's going to let us go. The crowd was in an uproar. Beast tamer King Guguju's words were too attractive to them. Even if they knew that even if they left, the other party might not let them go after they left the land of the deceased immortals. But that was a matter for the future, wasn't it? What's more, when they left the land of the deceased immortals, they could completely unite and form an alliance. No matter which first-class sect they joined in the future, they could negotiate with beast tamer King Valley and survive. It was better than dying here now. Everyone's hearts were shaken as they thought this. They looked at Luo Qingtong in the middle of them. At this moment, Yunxi grabbed Luo Qingtong's sleeve and stood up, saying, "You can't be so ungrateful. If it wasn't for Qingtong, you would have all died under the conspiracy of beast tamer King Valley and Celestial Palace. Have you forgotten who saved you just now? What's the difference between abandoning her and going back on your word?" The beast tamer King Valley and the others were in front of the cave. Qingtong was the cave. As long as these people were willing to protect Luo Qingtong and rush into the cave, they could also threaten the beast-taming King's Valley to let them leave. Thinking of this, Yunxi was very anxious. She desperately tried to persuade the people of the various forces. But the latter and the others had been bewitched by beast-tamer King Guguju's promise. In the case of hope, who cared whether Luo Qingtong was dead or alive? They had made a deal with Luo Qingtong just because they wanted to leave this place. Now that beast tamer King Guguju had promised to let them go, why should they continue to fight to the death with the other party? Chapter 2073. The crowd snorted coldly at Yunxi. What do you mean by ungrateful? It's just a deal between us and Luo Qingtong. We keep her safe, and she keeps us safe. Isn't that right? We've already fulfilled our promise. Don't make it sound like we owe her. However, everyone knew in their hearts that they really owed Luo Qingtong. With the ability that the girl had shown, if she hadn't wanted to get something in the depths of the Broken Star Valley, she wouldn't have exposed her identity at all. It would have been easy for her to leave. But they relied on Luo Qingtong to survive among these blood-colored figures. If it hadn't been for Luo Qingtong, they would have been killed by those bloody figures under the coercion of the beast-taming King's Valley and the Celestial Palace. But even so, they wouldn't admit it. Otherwise, wouldn't they really be ungrateful people? Yunxi looked at their shameless faces, and she was so angry that she trembled all over. These people were simply too shameless. If it hadn't been for Luo Qingtong, they would all be dead. Now they were saying that they didn't owe Luo Qingtong anything. How could they say that they didn't owe her a life? Yunxi was so angry that she wanted to continue arguing with them. At this moment, Luo Qingtong had also retracted her gaze from the entrance of the cave. Then she looked at the group of people with an indifferent expression and said, "Okay. If you want to leave, you can leave now." Qingtong. Yunxi was anxious. Although she and Luo Qingtong didn't know each other very well, seriously speaking, Luo Qingtong had helped her several times. Whether it was indirectly or directly. And this time, if it hadn't been for Luo Qingtong, she wouldn't have been able to survive until now. Looking at how the Yun family's people had all disappeared, it was obvious. At this moment, the people guarding Luo Qingtong were all experts from various sections. She was the only one whose strength was extremely low, yet she was completely unharmed. Yunxi knew what it meant to be grateful. But now, the group in front of her relied on Luo Qingtong to survive. They relied on Luo Qingtong to break free from the oppression of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. And now, because of the beast-tamer King Gu Guju's words, he abandoned Luo Qingtong. How hateful! Why did Luo Qingtong agree to let them go? If she let them go, how was she going to deal with the beast-tamer Valley Master and the others? There's no need to say any more. Upon seeing Yunxi's gaze, Luo Qingtong knew what she was thinking. Her expression was indifferent. These people, even if you don't let them go, they won't stay. Why force it? If you want to leave, all of you can leave. As she spoke, she looked at beast-tamer King Gu Guju and the others who had broken through the obstruction of those blood-colored figures and entered the range of the cave. Now that the latter and the others were no longer obstructed by those blood-colored figures, they rushed toward them with a ferocious expression. Their speed was as fast as lightning. Seeing this scene, the people of those forces didn't dare to stay any longer. They said hypocritically, "Miss Tong is still the most righteous one. Miss Tong, since you've said so, we won't meet again. Goodbye." As the group spoke, they bypassed beast-tamer King Gu Guju and the others and rushed toward the outside. In their hearts, they were confident that they could rush out the way they had just rushed in. At most, without Luo Qingtong, some people who weren't strong enough might be unlucky, but most people should be fine. Chapter 2074. They were full of confidence, but they didn't realize that when they left, Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She looked in the direction they left, and the corners of her lips curled up. Naturally, we'll never meet again. The smile on her lips was charming, but as cold as a knife. How could it be so easy to take advantage of her? These people were really thinking too much. If they had really accompanied her to the end, then no matter whether they succeeded or not, she would have brought all the survivors away safely. But since they had chosen to abandon her, then they couldn't blame her for taking back everything she had promised before. Want to leave this place alive? Sure. Maybe it would be faster in the dream. Luo Qingtong's sleeves fluttered slightly. Bang, bang, bang. A series of slight explosions sounded. All the auras that she had attached to those blood-colored figures were triggered and exploded by her. Those people thought that Luo Qingtong could see those blood-colored figures and mark them. It was because Luo Qingtong had that treasure map. Therefore, they thought that Luo Qingtong had already used the method taught in that treasure map to make those blood-colored figures appear. In this way, even if Luo Qingtong was gone, they could still leave this place using the method they had used to rush in. At most, they would have to pay a price. But they didn't know that it was Luo Qingtong's eye technique that had seen through those blood-colored figures. And it was Luo Qingtong's aura that had marked those blood-colored figures. As long as she was willing, these marks could all be destroyed. Bang, bang, bang. Those auras all exploded in an instant. And a group of people rushed into those blood-colored figures with great momentum, anxious to leave. After rushing halfway, they suddenly felt that something was wrong. Why did the auras of those blood-colored figures disappear all of a sudden? There were no more traces of those blood-colored figures in front of them at this moment. However, the miserable cries around him continued to ring out one after another. Ah! A saint emperor was controlled by those blood-colored figures in front of everyone, and his intestines were pierced through, and he died. Finally, he dragged his horribly broken body and joined the corpses controlled by those blood-colored figures, and rushed towards the crowd. The crowd screamed shrilly, desperately trying to retreat. But after losing the auras of those blood-colored figures, they had no way to effectively avoid the other party's attacks, and there was no way to leave their range. They could only be surrounded by them and constantly attacked to death. Only now did they realize how stupid their decision to give up on Luo Qingtong was. If they had known that they couldn't escape death in the end, they would have followed behind Luo Qingtong to fight against the people of the Beast King Valley, and find a chance to live. It was much better than dying at the hands of these blood-red figures. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. They could only be killed by those blood-red figures in their endless regret. And Luo Qingtong of the Saint Emperor SSST Avest, bitch, prepared to die. Seeing that there was no one else beside Luo Qingtong except for Yun Shi and the corpse puppet of the great young saint, Gu Guzhu, and the others sneered. The other party must die. Chapter 2075. Seeing them rushing over, Yun Shi, who was beside Luo Qingtong, turned pale. The corners of her lips twitched. She wanted to tell Luo Qingtong to run. But at this time, where could Luo Qingtong run? The beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others didn't come alone, nor were they ordinary powerhouses. With so many of them coming, even if Luo Qingtong had that group of people by her side, she might not be able to escape from their pursuit. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong didn't have many people by her side. Apart from herself, there was only one other person by Luo Qingtong's side. Under such circumstances, unless the person was a powerhouse above the venerable realm. Otherwise, it would be impossible to save Luo Qingtong from the lineup of the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others. Yun Shi's heart was filled with despair, but she didn't have the thought of leaving Luo Qingtong behind. Just as she thought before, if it weren't for Luo Qingtong taking care of her, she wouldn't have survived until now. She would have been killed by those blood-red figures long ago. Since that was the case, this could be considered as repaying Luo Qingtong's life. Thinking of this, she didn't say anything. She just pursed her lips tightly and closed her eyes. She knew that with her little strength, even if she rushed up to Luo Qingtong and risked her life, she wouldn't be able to stop the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others for even half a breath. It wouldn't be a waste of effort. It would also save her from being a burden to Luo Qingtong. When she closed her eyes, Luo Qingtong looked at the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others rushing toward her. She narrowed her eyes slightly, then tilted her head and said to Yun Shi, "Follow me closely. Look after her." The latter words were naturally said to Little Pig, who was hiding on the corpse puppet of the great young saint. Since Yun Shi had chosen to stay with her, Luo Qingtong would try her best to save her life. Of course, if they really couldn't keep it, there was nothing they could do. After all, Yun Shi's cultivation level was relatively weak. Luo Qingtong didn't dare to make a complete guarantee. It all depended on her luck. Shwa! The moment Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, the energy in her hand shot towards the entrance of the cave. Luo Qingtong and the others were still halfway to the entrance of the cave. If beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others didn't rush over, this distance was naturally nothing for Luo Qingtong. However, the people from Beast Taming King's Valley were already 100 meters away from the cave. They would reach Luo Qingtong in the blink of an eye. If Luo Qingtong were to run towards the cave, she would be exposing her rear to Beast Taming King Gu Guzhu's group. She wasn't afraid of Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu's attack by relying on her eye technique. However, he was accompanied by a group of high-level experts from Beast Tamer King's Valley and Celestial Palace. Luo Qingtong would be crazy to expose her back to the enemy. Therefore, she wouldn't run. She would only let the people from Beast Tamer King's Valley run. Bang! Luo Qingtong's attack directly hit the entrance of the cave. With a buzzing sound, transparent ripples suddenly spread out from the entrance of the cave. It turned out that the entrance of the cave seemed to be sealed by an invisible door. When Luo Qingtong's attack was launched, the invisible door instantly rippled open. Chapter 2076. Translations. The ripples of laws on it vibrated violently, and the invisible door suddenly exploded. At this moment, a boundless blood-red color gushed out. Boom, boom, boom. Roar. The violent explosion mixed with a sharp and resounding roar resounded in the depths of Shattered Star Valley. In Luo Qingtong's bloody eyes, a huge blood-colored shadow suddenly rushed out of the broken transparent door. It turned out that the transparent door was a seal. Sealed inside was a huge blood-colored immortal jade bone. At this moment, it suddenly screamed and rushed out from inside. This blood-colored shadow was huge, almost 10 times bigger than the other blood-colored figures outside. The blood-colored aura surrounding it was also very dense. Not only that, its voice was loud and deafening. Even Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others, who couldn't hear its sound waves, felt a stabbing pain in their heads. After all, these blood-colored figures all relied on spiritual energy to attack. And this blood-colored figure's strength was even above the other blood-colored figures by many times. Roar! It screamed sharply and rushed towards Luo Qingtong and the others. Because the girl was the closest to it. And when it attacked, Luo Qingtong's body had already turned. Then, her body flashed, and she took a mysterious step, following the path calculated by her bloody eyes. With a swoosh, she rushed towards Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others. The latter and the others hated Luo Qingtong to the bone, so they were prepared to rush in front of her and ruthlessly end her. But who would have thought that Luo Qingtong would make such an unexpected move in such a situation? Before they could react, they saw Luo Qingtong attack the cave and then rush towards them. Quick, attack and kill her. When Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others reacted, Luo Qingtong had already rushed in front of them. An extremely bad premonition flashed in his heart. Beast Tamer King Gu Guju was flustered and exasperated, and ordered his people to attack. At the same time, he also prepared to attack Luo Qingtong. But it was too late. At such a close distance, they had no time to attack. And because they had to surround Luo Qingtong and not let her escape, their formation was concave in a semicircle. And Luo Qingtong was in the middle of their concave formation. If they attacked, they could easily injure others. Therefore, when they heard Beast Tamer King Gu Guju's words, the higher-ups of Beast Tamer King's Valley and Celestial Palace hesitated subconsciously. In just a moment, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared behind them. And behind her, Yun Shi and the Great Yong Saint's corpse puppet followed closely. Yun Shi was stunned when Luo Qingtong opened her mouth. Before she could open her eyes, Little Pig controlled the Great Yong Saint's corpse puppet to grab her and chase after Luo Qingtong. Almost at the same time that Luo Qingtong appeared behind Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others, the two figures also appeared behind Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others. Beast Tamer King Gu Guju's voice was filled with shock and anger. Before they could turn around, awe. Chapter 2077. Then, there was a Pucci. One of the higher-ups of the Celestial Palace at the edge of the group let out a shrill scream. In an instant, he was torn in half by an invisible giant hand. Blood splattered out. Blood splattered all over the faces of the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace's upper echelons. Soon after, another beast-taming King Valley's upper echelon let out a miserable shriek as he followed in the footsteps of the Celestial Palace's upper echelon. Puff puff puff. These executives of Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace were all above the Saint Emperor realm, but they couldn't resist at all in front of that invisible figure. That huge blood-colored figure's mental attack first invaded their brains and controlled their movements, then suddenly raised its hand and tore them apart. In the blink of an eye, the two higher-ups were completely dead. As for the huge blood-red shadow, it only looked at them indifferently and had no intention of possessing them. Instead, it continued to scream and rush toward Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. Bang bang! In the blink of an eye, two higher-ups from the Beast Taming King's Valley and Extreme Celestial Palace died. And Guguju and the others didn't even see the face of the enemy. It's that damn thing, the Blood Immortal Jade Bones transformation. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others already knew from Luo Qingtong's words that it was the Blood Immortal Jade Bones transformation that controlled the bloody corpse. Now, seeing how the blood-colored figure tore apart the two executives of Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace, it was very clear that this blood-colored figure's strength was above the Saint Emperor realm. Damn it, Luo Qingtong just attacked the cave to release this damn thing. How did she know that there was this damn thing behind the cave, and that there was a seal at the entrance? No wonder that bitch didn't run in the direction of the cave when they rushed over. Logically speaking, regardless of whether it was useful or not, the other party should have given it a try. In the end, Luo Qingtong just stood there and didn't move. Beast Tamer King Guguju thought that she knew that she couldn't escape, so she just stood there and waited for death. However, she didn't expect that she had seen through the mystery of the cave entrance, so she deliberately didn't run over. Otherwise, the one who would face the blood-red phantom and be torn to shreds would definitely be that B*TCH. Thinking of this, the Beast Tamer King Guguju gritted his teeth in anger. As for Luo Qingtong, she didn't stop after passing by the higher-ups of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. Her figure flashed as she stomped her foot in the air, bypassing Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others as she charged toward the cave. Only then did Yunxi return to her senses. She immediately coordinated with the Great Yong Saint Corpse puppet beside her and followed Luo Qingtong's figure as they rushed towards the cave. Her heart was filled with indescribable surprise and shock. She didn't expect that Luo Qingtong had such a backup plan. It turned out that there were blood-red phantoms near the cave, but they were sealed in the cave. No wonder those blood-red phantoms stopped 100 meters away and didn't dare to approach here. It turned out that there were even more ferocious and terrifying blood-red phantoms. If those people knew that Luo Qingtong had such a backup plan, they would definitely regret leaving, right? After all, even if they could break out of the encirclement of those blood-red phantoms and leave Broken Stars Valley, they would have to pay a price. It was far more advantageous to follow Luo Qingtong. Chapter 2078. However, Yunxi didn't know that those people didn't just choose the wrong path. There was no turning back. Surrounded and attacked by those blood-colored figures, they were all dead. When Luo Qingtong and the others rushed into the cave, the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were furious and wanted to chase after them. However, the huge blood-colored figure was entangling them so tightly that they couldn't get away. This blood-colored figure was able to exert the power of the Holy Spirit realm. However, because of its huge size and the fact that it used spiritual attacks, the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others couldn't do anything to it. Because they couldn't see its figure, they couldn't go around it and split up to chase after Luo Qingtong. Suddenly, he was blocked outside the cave. He was so angry that he was stamping with rage. This time, the Beast Tamer King Guguju couldn't abandon the higher-ups of the Beast Tamer King Valley and Celestial Palace like he did with the disciples of the Beast Tamer King Valley and Celestial Palace. If he did that, he would be the only one at a disadvantage. What's more, those disciples who were abandoned could be trained again. However, once the higher-ups of the Beast Tamer King Valley were lost, the Beast Tamer King Valley would become an empty shell. At that time, any mid-level sect could destroy the Beast Tamer King Valley. What was the use of having a complete beast tamer technique? Therefore, the beast tamer King Guguju, the Dark Elder, and the other holy venerables were forced to stay where they were and didn't dare to chase after Luo Qingtong. Their faces were twisted with rage, like that of a ghost. Luo Qingtong glanced at them indifferently and rushed into the cave. These people from the Beast Tamer King Valley and Celestial Palace used others as bait and shields before. They probably didn't expect to become her bait and shield, right? She really had to thank them for luring that huge blood-colored figure away for her. Luo Qingtong, Yun Shi, and the Sure puppet rushed into the cave. This place was extremely deep and spacious. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Her gaze swept over the path that led straight into the depths of the forest, and she led Yun Shi and Sure Shao into the depths of the forest. While Luo Qingtong, Yun Shi, Sure Shao, and the others were heading into the depths of the cave. As the Beast Tamer King Guguju, the Celestial Palace Master, and the others fought against the Blood Immortal Jade Bone's transformation, they discovered that as the Blood Immortal Jade Bone absorbed more and more blood essence, its formless silhouette was slowly showing some shape. This was something they hadn't noticed before. Perhaps it was because there were too many crimson figures before, and the amount of blood essence and life force allocated to each figure was too little. That was why such an effect was not present. However, there was only one blood-red figure here, and they were all strong enough, so the situation slowly became apparent. After realizing this, the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were overjoyed. The Beast Tamer King Guguju sternly shouted, "Quick, let us bleed and let it suck. Drink to your heart's content." As long as the Blood Immortal Jade Bone's figure was exposed, they wouldn't be afraid that they couldn't deal with it. "Luo Qingtong, you bitch, just you wait. Even if you entered the cave first and obtained something, I will make you spit it all out." The Beast Tamer King Guguju's expression was sinister, and he ordered everyone to bleed immediately. The others also noticed the change in the Blood Immortal Jade Bone, and didn't dare to hesitate. Chapter 2079. It was better than them losing their lives. One had to know that other than the beast-taming King Valley Master and a few others, the rest of them weren't a match for the blood-colored shadow. If they didn't hurry to feed this bloody shadow, would they wait for it to kill them and use their lives to fill its body? The crowd scrambled to feed the crimson figure with their blood. Luo Qingtong and Yun Shi had already reached the depths of the cave. This place seemed to have been built into a stone room. The inside was brightly lit, and there were huge luminous pearls embedded in the walls. The bright lights of the pearls converged together like a ray of light, illuminating the depths of the cave. In the depths of the cave, a corpse sat on a futon. In front of the corpse, on the wall at the end of the cave, there were words engraved. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. The Fifth Beast Tamer Law Formula. She looked at the words engraved on the wall and clearly recognized that it was the content of the Fifth Beast Tamer Law Formula. Because the contents of the first four were related to each other. The Fifth Beast Tamer Law Formula should be no exception. Luo Qingtong compared the contents of the first four Beast Tamer Law formulas that she had memorized before, and soon determined that what was engraved on the wall was the content of the Fifth Beast Tamer Law Formula. However, next to the content of the Beast Tamer Law Formula, there were murals. These murals seemed to have been carved by someone in a hurry. They were very messy, and the lines were very simple. Because of the erosion of countless years, many of the images had been broken, and there were no traces of them. The whole murals were very messy and mottled. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed, and she carefully identified the murals. She found that what was engraved on them seemed to be related to the land of the fallen immortals. The bloody light in her eyes suddenly skyrocketed. The real reason for the formation of the land of the fallen immortals was very mysterious. For a long time, the people of the hidden world only knew that the land of the fallen immortals was formed because the powerhouses of the outer realms were fighting over some treasure. The result was that all of them perished together in the true Spill Continent's hidden world. For some unknown reason, no one had passed down any information about the treasure. Hence, for so many years, everyone in the hidden world only knew that there was a treasure in the immortal graveyard. However, they did not know what the treasure that caused so many foreign experts to fight over it was. At this moment, Luo Qingtong might be able to find out the reason behind the murals. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately used her dojutsu to restore the content of the missing images. The contents of the murals were imprinted in her pupils. Chapter 2080. Her gaze suddenly froze. She saw on one of the pictures. Those people all fell to the ground. In the middle of their bodies, there was a huge ball of light that looked like a living thing. Within it, there was a thump, 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 thump. What was this? Was this the treasure that those people were fighting for? Luo Qingtong's eyes focused on the picture, and then she continued to look. He saw a person dragging his broken body out of the cave, and finally collapsed in a cave. The paintings that followed were meant to explain how the person had managed to carve these scenes onto the wall at the end of his life. Clearly, the person on the mural was the corpse in the cave. She didn't know how he managed to survive this disaster and draw these pictures. However, it was clear that his strength was much stronger than those who had died near the ball of light. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to drag his last breath to appear here and draw these pictures. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, she continued to read. By the time she saw the last image, there was a clear difference in the image. What was drawn on it was the scene of the corpse in the cave passing away in a sitting posture. The lines on the picture were smooth and smooth. The picture that was revealed was composed of small words. It turned out that the whole picture was actually a letter. Luo Qingtong looked at the content of the picture carefully. My name is Zhuge 13. If there is a fated person who comes to this cave, please bring my relics back to my family, the Zhuge family. The Zhuge family is the #1 beast tamer family in the extraterritorial domain. We created a unique beast taming method that allows people who don't have beast taming soul seals to contract and tame demonic beasts. From then on, their combat power will increase, and their strength won't lose to those who have soul seals. Today, I am the 94th generation great-grandson of the Zhuge family. Because I heard about the sector beast, I came to this remote waste domain, a low-level continent. In the end, I died here. This is my fate. However, I've just finished improving the clan's cultivation method, so that the demon beasts contracted by the clan's cultivation method can increase their strength together with the contractor, complementing each other. Although I can't solve the problem of the beast taming technique only being able to contract demonic beasts that are weaker than me, I've already formed the embryonic form of a heaven and earth contract. Now that I've died here, I hope that the fated person will be able to return my cultivation methods and personal belongings to the Zhuge family. For this, I am willing to repay you with my inheritance. I will use my own beast mark to bestow upon the fated one. A beast mark was a mark condensed by a beast tamer's beast taming technique. Through the use of the seal, one could contract a demonic beast. Chapter 2081. Because what the other party had was his beast mark. And this man named Zhuge Shirsan was able to survive until the end in that battle where he killed all the extraterrestrial experts. His strength was unknown. The demonic beasts contracted by his beast mark were naturally not below him in strength. Whoever could get his beast mark would really be rich. However, this beast mark inheritance was not very attractive to Luo Qingtong. After all, she already had the heaven and earth contract. With this contract, Luo Qingtong could even contract a divine beast if she wanted to. But Zhuge Shirsan's beast mark inheritance could only contract demonic beasts that were weaker than him in strength. This was too weak for Luo Qingtong. However, the demonic beasts contracted by Luo Qingtong's heaven and earth contract would be temporarily suppressed if the contractor's strength was weak. But Zhuge Shirsan's beast mark inheritance did not have this restriction. As long as the demonic beasts were below his level, he could contract and control them. And the demonic beast's strength would not be restricted at all. In other words, even if an ordinary person obtained his beast mark inheritance, as long as he could contract a powerful demonic beast, he could use this demonic beast's strength to beat others. Comparing these two, in the long run, the heaven and earth contract was naturally better. But in the short run, Zhuge Shursan's beast mark inheritance could play a greater role. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong decided to accept this beast mark inheritance. After all, with her current strength, she really needed to improve. As for his last wish, if there was a chance in the future, she would naturally fulfill it for him. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately reached out to the package that Zhuge Shursan's corpse was holding. This package was in the arms of Zhuge Shursan's corpse. The latter's head was lowered, and his hands were tightly crossed as he hugged the package tightly. Obviously, this package was his belongings. At the same time, it was also where the beast-taming incantation and inheritance was. This Zhuge Shursan was also a talent to be able to improve such a beast-taming incantation. Luo Qingtong came for the 5th beast-taming incantation. However, he did not expect that the best thing was not that, but the cultivation method improved by Zhuge 13. If she guessed correctly, the 5th beast-taming incantation and the first 4 beast-taming incantations would only be the beast-taming incantation practiced by the Zhuge family. It was far inferior to the spell improved by Zhuge 13. The spell improved by the latter was a weaker version of the heaven and earth contract. To be able to do this, Zhuge 13 was indeed a rare genius. His position in the Zhuge family must not be weak. It was a pity that he had died here. Who knew what the sector beast he had been talking about was? It actually attracted so many foreign experts to fight over it. Furthermore, none of these people had leaked any information. Did they really value this sector beast that much? Luo Qingtong's mind was racing. However, the movements of his hands did not stop at all. Whoosh! She grabbed the black package and pulled it out of Zhuge Shursan's body and held it in her hand. "Let's go," she said to Yun Shi and Little Pig. The people from the beast-taming valley and the celestial palace were still outside. She had to leave while the giant blood-red shadow was holding them back. Chapter 2082. Translations: Qingtong, be careful. Yun Shi and the Great Yong Saint Corpse puppet stood nearby, watching Luo Qingtong study the murals and words. Although they didn't know what those things were. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Luo Qingtong seemed to be studying something. She didn't dare to disturb Luo Qingtong, so she stood there motionless. Little Pig had already lifted the veil on the Great Yong Saint Corpse puppet's head and poked his head out from the puppet's arms, looking at the murals and words on the wall. He didn't have the blood eyes like Luo Qingtong, which could restore the images on the murals. After studying for a long time, he could vaguely make out some things. Suddenly, he swept his gaze around and saw a huge ball of light that seemed to be alive. This seems to be, he widened his eyes, trying his best to distinguish the appearance of this ball of light. Then, he heard Luo Qingtong's voice calling for them to leave. He was just about to ask Luo Qingtong to wait. Then, he looked up and saw a scene that made him extremely shocked. "Quick! Get out of the way!" He hopped his little hooves and hurriedly shouted at Luo Qingtong. His voice and Yun Shi's scream sounded at almost the same time. When Luo Qingtong saw the sudden change in their expressions, she immediately felt that something was wrong behind her. Bang! Her figure suddenly flashed and dodged to the side. Then, a huge crater was blasted open on the ground where she had been standing. The waves of power that had burst out from the hole were extremely violent. The strong wind and gravel that flew in all directions cut her skin like sharp blades. In just an instant, several bloody wounds appeared on Luo Qingtong's body and face. Such a violent force, such a terrifying power, just the aftermath alone was enough to injure Luo Qingtong. And this was under the circumstance that she had clearly dodged the attack. The girl's expression instantly turned grave. Venerable realm. Sensing the power in the air that could almost break all laws, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. This power carried the aura of a power above the venerable realm. Although it was only a trace, it carried a destructive power. This was a power of another level, far above the saint realm. It was far from being comparable to any power in the saint realm. Any power above the sage realm, including the holy venerate realm, appeared insignificant in front of this wisp of power. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She looked behind her. Behind where she had just stood, the corpse that had been sitting on the futon suddenly stood up. Its head slowly lifted slowly, revealing a greenish-black and shriveled face. Its eyes were only flickers with a ruthlessness and ferociousness. Yin corpse. The corpse puppet's body Zhuge Shirsan had been transformed into a corpse. Moreover, it was an extremely formidable Yin corpse that was able to emit a trace of an exalt realm aura. Just how strong was the other party previously? It was said that after a corpse transformed into a Yin corpse, it only had 1/10 of its original strength, or even less. This Zhuge Shirsan's corpse had obviously just been transformed. But the aura and strength revealed by this clubhouse was already comparable to that of the venerable realm. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She could clearly feel the impending crisis. Chapter 2083. But how did Zhuge Shirsan's corpse suddenly turn into a Yin corpse? When Luo Qingtong approached it, it was still motionless. And Luo Qingtong's blood I did not detect any abnormalities. How did it change so suddenly? But when Luo Qingtong approached the corpse, she also felt a little strange. Zhuge Shirsan's corpse had been dead for a long time in this cave. Logically speaking, it should have been eroded by the aura of the land of the deceased immortals and turned into a Yin corpse. How could there be no movement? But at that time, she only thought that Zhuge Shirsan had some way to prevent himself from turning into a Yin corpse, so she did not pay much attention to it. After all, under the investigation of her blood eye, the corpse was indeed just a corpse, and there was no trace of abnormalities. She did not expect it to change in an instant. Luo Qingtong frowned. Suddenly, she thought of the transparent door that she had blasted open. Could it be that the existence of the seal prevented Zhuge Shirsan's corpse from being eroded by the aura of the land of the deceased immortals? Then she blasted open the seal, and the aura of the outside poured in, and then Zhuge Shirsan's corpse was affected. Luo Qingtong thought about it and felt that this was probably the only reason that made sense. But she also felt that something was wrong. But now, she did not have time to think about it. After the Yin corpse transformed from Zhuge Shirsan's corpse stood up completely, it suddenly screamed and pounced on Luo Qingtong. Boom! The wind that it pounced on was like a sharp blade, and the direction of the wind was enough to turn into a blade and cut people into pieces. Luo Qingtong's face was cold, and she immediately jumped up when it pounced on her. Bang! The Yin corpse that Zhuge Shirsan transformed into missed its target. It had just finished its transformation, and its bones were still very stiff, so its movements were not very fast. Luo Qingtong relied on her eye technique to barely dodge its attack. But when it transformed a little more, its bones would become more adapted to its body movements, and its lethality would increase exponentially. Bang! At this moment, Luo Qingtong's attack came down. Annihilation. As soon as she made her move, she immediately used her strongest attack without holding back at all. This was a Yin corpse that could use the power of an exalt realm. Luo Qingtong would never be so arrogant as to joke with her own life. Death blade power. Soul of myriad flames. Luo Qingtong's sword light instantly became as dark as ink. The black sword radiance was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. It drew a cold and murderous arc in the air and slashed toward Juga Shirsan's corpse. At the same time, the power of the soul of myriad flames in her body burst out in an instant. Along with the light from the sword, countless colors of flames clustered around the black sword light. It embellished the terrifying sword light that seemed to have come from the nether realm with a myriad of colors, and it was extremely magnificent and gorgeous. More than 10 kinds of flames tangled together, and around the black sword light, beautiful flowers bloomed one after another. It carried a terrifying power that could burn people into flames, or freeze people into cold flames, and it blasted toward the Yin corpse in front. The power of annihilation dissolved and transformed the power around the Yin corpse, and finally transformed it into its own attack power. Chapter 2084. This was an attack to pay someone back in their own coin. The stronger the opponent, the stronger the opponent. Boom! The sword light ruthlessly slashed at the Yin corpse that Juga Shirsan had transformed into, instantly creating intense sparks. However, the Yin corpse was completely unharmed. The attack that carried wisps of venerable realm aura blasted on its body did not even leave a scratch on its skin. This won't do. Little Pig jumped from the great Yong corpse puppet to Luo Qingtong's body at this moment. He stared at Juga Shirsan's corpse that was roaring madly and pouncing towards Luo Qingtong. This Yin corpse's strength is too strong. To be precise, Juga Shirsan's strength was too strong when he was alive. I guess he's at least a green venerable realm expert. This little bit of venerable realm aura won't be able to break through his defense. Green venerable realm. Was that the level of strength above the venerable realm? Luo Qingtong's brows slightly furrowed, but she did not have the time to ask Little Pig about this matter. Because at this moment, 2 wild roars suddenly came from somewhere behind her. He saw that in a dark corner of the cave, 2 roaring Yin corpse monster beasts slowly walked out of it. Their wide-open mouths had already rotted, revealing the eerie white bones. Their bodies were shriveled and greenish-black. They were almost as thin as skeletons. However, the strength around them was abnormally strong. Venerable realm. Luo Qingtong looked at the 2 Yin corpse beasts that were walking out, and the light in her eyes became even more serious. A Yin corpse that could use a trace of venerable realm strength, and 2 Yin corpse beasts. No, not 2. Not far from the 2 Yin corpse beasts that were walking out, the other 2 Yin corpse beasts also roared madly and staggered to their feet. Their wild and ferocious roars shook the entire depths of the cave. 4 Yin corpse beasts. And all 4 of them had the strength of venerable realm. Luo Qingtong's eyes became extremely serious. Little Pig's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Oh my God! Is there a need to be so exaggerated? With this lineup, who the hell can take away the thing that the beast-taming Kings Valley people want? F***CK. If they knew earlier, they wouldn't have stopped the beast-taming Kings Valley people from coming in to take this damn thing. It's better to let them come in. At that time, everyone would die. How convenient it would be. It would also save us from being trapped. Thinking of this, Little Pig cursed in his heart. Those bastards from the beast-taming Kings Valley, they've really killed me. When Luo Qingtong heard its words, her heart skipped a beat. She seemed to have thought of something, but she could not grasp it. Then, a series of wind-breaking sounds rushed out from within. Bitch! Beast-taming King Guguju and the others appeared in this stone room. They immediately pounced on Luo Qingtong. Their eyes were bloodshot. They couldn't see anything except for Luo Qingtong. They didn't even notice the scene in the depths of the cave. That bitch! Beast-taming King Guguju's heart was filled with hatred. It wasn't easy for them to get rid of that huge blood shadow. They lost several high-level experts because of it. Every time one of them died, beast-taming King Guguju's heart would bleed. Luo Qingtong, that bitch, he wanted her to die without a burial place. I'm mentally and physically exhausted from the cold. Sorry, I sent the wrong chapter to you earlier. With the purchase of treasures, the word fixed is the correct chapter. The book coins won't be deducted again. This chapter is the compensation for the extra chapters. Mwah, I'm really sorry. But with the addition of 4 corpse beasts, she wouldn't even have the chance to escape. At that time, she would have no other choice but to ask Little Pig to take action. But now that Beast Tamer King's Valley's people had arrived, they became her best shield. The Beast Taming King Valley's Valley Master and the others were truly noble and virtuous. It wasn't easy for them to get rid of that gigantic blood-colored shadow, but now they were rushing over to block the disaster for her. They were simply too good to her. Chapter 2086. She had to leave quickly so that the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others would not be in vain. As she thought of this, her lips suddenly curled up. Then she pulled Yun Shi and leaped up. In that instant, her eyes burst with a blazing light. The blood-red light filled Luo Qingtong's eyes. The blood-red pupils kept spinning. Very quickly, the sky was filled with blood-red light from a certain point in the eye. It instantly radiated in all directions and dyed the whites of Luo Qingtong's eyes red. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's eyes were blood-red. Her aura was domineering and evil. She was like a blood-red demon god that rose from the dark night. She was extremely evil and charming. In her eyes, all the trajectories and attack directions of the pincer attack from all directions were rapidly evolving in her eyes. Countless lines and lights flitted across her eyes. Countless possibilities were demonstrated. Finally, she chose the best route of evasion. Boom! Luo Qingtong's figure leaped up in an instant. Driven by her thoughts, the undead hag beside her also leaped up with her in an instant. Boom! Luo Qingtong's figure leaped toward the top of the cave. The depths of this cave were extremely large. The distance between the top of the cave and the ground was not short. It was enough for Luo Qingtong to leap up and avoid the attacks of the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. Swish swish swish. Luo Qingtong's figure made several turns in midair. Her figure did not move in a large arc in midair, but she still managed to avoid the attacks of the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. Naturally, the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint had contributed to this. Its figure had always been in front of Luo Qingtong, blocking all the aftershocks of the attacks. Bang! Luo Qingtong's figure flew to the top of the cave, and then flew behind Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. After Luo Qingtong flew up, the latter and the others immediately faced Zhuge Shisan's corpse and the 4 corpse beasts in front of her. Roar! The 4 corpse beasts and Zhuge Shisan's corpse were originally going for Luo Qingtong, but now that the girl had run away, they naturally targeted Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others who were closest to them. When the latter and the others heard the roars of the corpses and the corpse beasts, the reason that had been drowned in anger suddenly came back. Seeing the corpses and corpse beasts pouncing towards them, their faces were indescribably ugly. Damn it! Luo Qingtong, you bitch! You're using us as a shield again. Beast Tamer King Guguju's face was like thunder. He had never thought that after rushing into the depths of the cave, what he would face was not the scene that he had imagined, where he would beat up Luo Qingtong and then torture her until nothing was left. Instead, there were 4 Saint Venerable corpse beasts and 1 corpse that could use the power of a Saint Venerable. Luo Qingtong, that bitch, used them to block the disaster again. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the Celestial Palace Master were about to vomit blood. Why did they rush in here with all their might? Wasn't it to kill Luo Qingtong and get the things inside? Who would have thought that they would not get anything, but block another disaster for Luo Qingtong? If they had known, they would not have rushed in and waited outside for Luo Qingtong to be killed. Bastard! Chapter 2087. The 4 Yin corpse beasts were menacing, not to mention the Yin corpse of Zhuge Shirsan, who could use the strength of a venerable realm expert. Beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others were furious, but they did not dare to be negligent. Otherwise, with the formation of these 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses, it was enough to completely annihilate them here. They used all their strength to barely resist the attacks of the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses. But this was only temporary. When the joints of these 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses were completely softened and no longer stiff, their strength would soar again. At that time, they would be miserable. While the people of Beast Tamer King's Valley were fighting against the Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses, Luo Qingtong took Yun Shi and rushed to the entrance of the cave. Taking advantage of the fact that Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others had not reacted and were still resisting the Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpse beasts, she had to leave here as soon as possible. Otherwise, when they reacted and did not need to stay in the cave, they would turn around and chase after them, and that would be troublesome. At that time, Luo Qingtong would not only have to deal with Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others, but also the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge Shirsan's Yin corpse. As her figure rushed out, the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint followed closely behind her. Because its body was resisting the aftermath of the attacks of Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others, who knew how many big holes were blasted in its body. Its whole body was in a mess. But fortunately, its limbs were not injured. Although its body was broken, it still firmly followed beside Luo Qingtong. The young girl glanced at it, thinking that after leaving here, she must find some Yin corpses to nourish and restore its strength. Fortunately, she had increased the strength of this corpse puppet before, otherwise it would not have been able to resist the aftermath of the attacks just now. Luo Qingtong's jumping figure would also be affected by the attacks of Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others. At that time, it would not be easy to avoid their attacks and let them collide with the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses. With this in mind, Luo Qingtong immediately rushed toward the entrance of the cave with Yun Shi in tow. However, just as she was about to reach the entrance of the cave, roar! A ferocious roar suddenly rang out. Then, a huge blood-red figure pounced towards Luo Qingtong from the corner of the passage ahead. At this time, Luo Qingtong was rushing at full speed towards the direction of the light coming from the cave entrance. Since there was already light, it meant that the cave entrance was not far from the corner. However, who would have thought that the giant crimson figure would rush out at this moment? Luo Qingtong didn't have time to stop. She rushed towards the blood-red figure. Seeing it reach out to grab her, Luo Qingtong's eyes froze. Bang! The life and death yin-yang sword in her hand suddenly stretched out and inserted horizontally into the passageway beside her. Sizzle! A sharp, ear-piercing scraping sound suddenly rang out. Fierce sparks burst out between the wall and the blade light of the life and death yin-yang sword. Boom! Luo Qingtong's figure finally stopped in front of the palm of the giant crimson figure. Chapter 2088. Luo Qingtong's gaze fell on the crimson figure. She found that its originally formless body was now filled with blood, revealing itself in the air. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows at the solid body and the obvious wounds on it. So that's how it is. She was wondering how the people from Beast Taming King's Valley found a way to deal with this crimson figure so quickly. If they could find a way to deal with this crimson figure, they wouldn't have to gather so many people here and expose the location of Shattered Star Valley. It turned out that this crimson figure had sucked enough of their blood and qi, exposing itself. Now that it was exposed, the people from Beast Taming King's Valley could easily shake it off. And because its body was exposed, the physical attacks that didn't work on it before were now effective. No wonder the people from Beast Taming King's Valley could shake it off and rush into the depths of the cave. But with this crimson figure blocking her way, she was in trouble. Luo Qingtong frowned. She watched as the crimson figure rushed towards her again. This crimson figure now had a solid body, and it was its own body. Its attacks were no longer limited to spiritual energy. Luo Qingtong frowned slightly as she watched it continue to grab her with its big hand. Bang! She leaped into the air, and the gigantic crimson figure grabbed nothing but air, creating a huge hole in the ground where she was standing. Then, it roared again and tried to grab Luo Qingtong. The giant blood-red figure was a Holy Spirit realm expert, but its true strength was comparable to a Holy Venerate. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to force the Beast Taming King Valley's Valley Master and the others into such a sorry state. After all, its spiritual energy attacks and possession were very difficult to deal with for Beast Taming King Guguju and the others. Except for Beast Taming King Guguju and a few others, the others basically couldn't resist its attacks. At this moment, because it was fed by Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others, it had a physical body. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others could easily escape, but Luo Qingtong was blocked because of its physical attack. Otherwise, with her ability to see through the blood-red figure and resist its mental attacks, she would have been able to kill it easily. At the very least, under the threat of the life blade, the other party could not block her path. But now, this huge blood-red figure had a physical attack, which made it difficult for Luo Qingtong to deal with. Humph. Keep an eye on her. Luo Qingtong tossed Yunshi the little pig and the great Yong Saint corpse puppet to look after her. She turned around and opened her blood-red eyes to scan the cavern. The crimson shadow had been trapped in the cave before, which meant that its main body was in the cave. Luo Qingtong couldn't deal with the blood-red figure that had turned into a physical body. However, as long as he could find the location of its main body and crush the blood-immortal jade bone, the transformation of the blood-immortal jade bone would also be destroyed. Therefore, Luo Qingtong didn't panic when facing the attack of the blood-red figure. She was only worried that Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others would catch up. But what she feared would happen. Just as Luo Qingtong's eyes were scanning the surroundings to find the main body of the blood-red figure and the location of the immortal jade bone. Chapter 2089. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were soon unable to resist the 4 Een corpse beasts and Een corpses. The 4 Een corpse beasts were Zhuge Shirsan's contracted beasts when he was alive. They had guarded him until he fled here. Now that Zhuge Shirsan's corpse had transformed into Een corpses, their bodies had also transformed at the same time. After the initial stiff period, their movements became more and more nimble, and their coordination was simply terrifying. In addition, Zhuge Shirsan's corpse could use the power of the Venerable Realm. For Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others, it was a complete nightmare. After fighting against the Een corpse beasts and Een corpses for a while, several of them were killed. Finally, Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others could not hold on any longer. Soon after, they realized that they didn't have to force themselves to stay here. The good things here had obviously been taken away by Luo Qingtong. That slut had used them as a shield and had already run away. What were they still doing here? After reacting, Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others hurriedly ran outside. At this time, Luo Qingtong had already found the location of the giant blood shadow's main body. The giant blood immortal jade bone was in the front right corner of the cave. The giant blood shadow would never have thought that a person like Luo Qingtong would exist in this world. A pair of blood-red eyes could see through thousands of things, and had already seen the location of its main body. After grabbing empty air with its 2 hands, it immediately roared and once again grabbed at Luo Qingtong. The huge arc and fierce wind created by the two hands surged like a tsunami, attacking Luo Qingtong from all directions. The huge force that exploded out was many times stronger than the one that grabbed at Luo Qingtong. Clearly, its repeated failures had finally caused it to be enraged. The girl in front of it was as small as an ant, but such a girl was able to dodge its attacks again and again. The giant blood shadow rushed at Luo Qingtong with large strides, its hands closed like a palm leaf fan. At this time, Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others also rushed out from the passage behind Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong, slut. Seeing Luo Qingtong's figure, Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others were startled at first, then they became furious. It was this slut who had just used them to block the disaster, causing them to be besieged by the four corpse beasts and corpses. Bastard! The thing is with you. Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu's face sinister. He looked at Luo Qingtong's hands, because she was in a hurry to be, she did not put it into the trash ring. This black package was faintly stained with a trace of the same aura as the Yin corpse, not to mention that it was stained with dust. Obviously, this was the good thing that Luo Qingtong had obtained from the depths of the cave. This B*TCH had indeed taken advantage of the time when they were blocking the giant blood-red shadow to obtain the item. Fortunately, the giant blood-red shadow blocked her. Otherwise, wouldn't this B*TCH have escaped long ago? You can't live if you want to. Luo Qingtong, you probably didn't think that the giant blood shadow would block here, right? Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu's face was sinister. They used their blood to feed the giant blood shadow, then went around it and rushed into the depths of the cave. Originally, they only wanted to rush over as quickly as possible and not waste any more time. Chapter 2090. Good, good, good. Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu laughed heartily, the veins on his face were clearly visible. Sure enough, this is karma. Luo Qingtong, just wait for your death here. This slut, let's see how she'll escape now. Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu led his men and charged towards Luo Qingtong. Not far behind them were the four corpse beasts and the corpse. Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu looked at Luo Qingtong with an evil grin on his face. The latter had just let them take the blame, but this time, they wanted to let her take the blame. Once they snatched the black package, they would let Luo Qingtong face the four corpse beasts and the corpse. They could use this opportunity to kill the giant blood shadow and escape. At that time, Luo Qingtong would become their scapegoat, taking the blame for them, and finally die miserably. Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu thought of this scene, his heart suddenly felt indescribably comfortable, and his footsteps quickened. The group's speed was already very fast, and now it was like a hurricane sweeping over. Meanwhile, Luo Qingtong was preparing to dodge the attack of the giant blood-colored shadow and rush to the corner that she had scouted out to destroy its main body. But now that Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others rushed out, her plan was obstructed. She was facing a pincer attack from two sides, no matter if she dodged or not, she would inevitably fall into danger. After all, behind Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others were the four corpse beasts and the corpse of Zhuge 13. Roar! The four corpse beasts chased behind Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others, almost to the sky or to the earth, omnipotent. Their four limbs were very strong, and almost from four directions, they rushed towards Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others. Two of the corpse beasts climbed on the walls on both sides of the cave, while the other two chased from the top of the cave. Their rotting big mouths opened and let out a deafening roar. Almost in an instant, they chased from behind. Zhuge Shirsan's corpse was at the forefront of the charge. The power of the venerable realm lingering around it became denser and denser, and its movements became faster and faster. Their transformation was becoming more and more perfect. Luo Qingtong was not sure that after avoiding the pincer attack of beast tamer King Guguju and the giant blood shadow, she could avoid the attacks of the 5 beasts. No, not to mention 5, Zhuge 13's Yin corpse, it was very difficult. Damn, this was clearly a hell-level difficulty. Just as Little Pig had said, how could anyone who entered the Broken Star Valley take away Zhuge Shirsan's belongings from the depths of the cave? It should be noted that the strongest people in the hidden world were only in the Venerable Realm. Even if there were Venerable Realm experts like the Temple Master of the Star Alliance, they could not enter the land of the deceased immortals, so how could they take the inheritance from Zhuge 13's Yin corpse? In this case, what was the meaning of leaving the inheritance? There must be a way to solve this problem. Since Zhuge 13 left the inheritance and sealed the entrance of the cave, he must have known that he would become a Yin corpse after death. If so, it was impossible that he did not take precautions. Otherwise, how could he let others take the inheritance he left behind? Wait! You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.